The multi-award-winning Niall Boylan Show.
Classic hits.
All right, speaking of Tommy Robinson, sorry, we lost him there before the break. For some reason, the line wasn't the best, but hopefully we got it sorted out now, Tommy. So, getting back to your childhood. So you kind of grew up in Luton. Everybody around you was either directly related to or second-generation immigrant, as you say.
Yep.
And you kind of ended up getting into, I suppose, some sort of confrontation on a regular basis.
Well, I left school. With good grades, and Luton's a tough town. Luton's a rough town, and you said about me fighting. You had to fight growing up in Luton. You had to, and it's a tough town. And
were you in a gang at the time? Would you have been in a gang yourself, or were you just solo?
No, I did join the football movement, the football hooligan scene as a youngster. But that was after. I did. I qualified as an aircraft engineer when I left school. So I've always worked hard. I've always been driven. I was 25, but when I started the English Defence League, I was 25 years old. I bought 7 properties. I had 2 successful businesses. And my life...
But you already at that stage had a couple of criminal convictions, including, of course, football-related violence as well.
When I started the English Defence League, I had one criminal conviction, and that was when I was 21 years old.
Yeah.
So by the time I got to 25, when I started the English Defence League, I then had my first child. And I had 2 successful businesses, and life was going in the right direction.
But I mean, here's what I'm trying to understand, Tommy. Here you are, you've good qualifications, a good career ahead of you. You're doing well financially as a young man at 25. Why bother getting involved with that? I mean, was it just a passion you had? Was it just you were so patriotic about the whole thing? I mean, why did you want to get involved?
Because I'd seen so much injustice. I'd seen so many wrongs, and no one would talk about it. So, and growing up in that town, we saw a 2-tier policing system. And then once I've had children, and I think deeply about these things, I think I've got 3 children now, and I'm looking at, and Luton's like a blueprint for the rest of the UK. Islamic immigration has destroyed my town. It's destroyed it. Okay, and that doesn't mean every Muslim, because some of the best people I met growing up in Luton are Muslim. Yeah? But there's a problem that comes within that community of extremism, of radicalisation, of prostitution of our daughters. My cousin was a victim of sexual grooming gangs, the gangs that everyone now knows about. My cousin was gang raped by them, and the police refused to do anything. And I'd watched all these things growing up, and the final straw for me was 2009 when the returning soldiers who had been trained in the Afghan army were spat at and abused. And it wasn't really that they were spat at and abused for me, because we know what that group of Muslims who've done it think. It was the fact that they were allowed and accommodated and actually brought through our town hall. I watched as a group of jihadis will walk through my town hall in order to stand in front of our soldiers and spit in their faces. And I just thought, that system there, I've proved it over the years. If I want to protest over something to do with the Islamic community, I won't even be allowed in it, into their area, let alone outside their mosques, let alone in their faces. So basically, at that point, the Muslim community had never heard the word no. They'd just not heard the word no for anything. And we see and we witness a 2-tier policing system where we see racist attacks and religious attacks on our community. And when I say our community, I don't mean white community, I mean non-Muslim community.
I mean, but I noticed in that, okay, you clearly said not all Muslims, some of the best people in the town were Muslims. But yet in the UK, when we hear on the news and when you're spoken to or you're interviewed, and you don't get too many interviews in mainstream for obvious reasons now, but we hear, Tommy Robinson, the Islamophobe. Tommy Robinson hates Muslims. Tommy Robinson is against all Muslims. But yet you clearly did say there that some of the Muslims in the town were the best people in the town. So why do you think you're getting this reputation? Is it the way that you're saying it? Because I interviewed you, Tommy, I don't know whether you remember it, going back about 7 years ago, I think we had you on the air. I think at the time you were still in the EDL. And I remember you were on the air with us. And the world has changed so much in that 7 years that now you, as well as I know, you have to be a lot more careful what you say, because I suppose maybe diversity has come a lot more to the Western society. So there's a lot more people in different cultures in Western society than there was 7 years ago, and people get upset. So
my rhetoric has never changed. So what I'm saying now is what I said before. So I basically, when I led the English Defence League, when Lee Rigby was beheaded on our streets, in my first speech to 10,000 supporters, I stood up and I said there are 800 Muslims serving in the British Armed Forces. They're doing a lot more for this country than I am. Okay? If you spare a Muslim woman, you're an absolute scumbag. If you attack a mosque, you're a moron. Yeah, I have always used my platform to talk and separate Muslims from Islam. The ideology of Islam I talk about. I believe the ideology is what brings the community back.
But is that not what? But Muslims, if you're saying that Muslims are good people, and the majority of Muslims are good people, and it's only militant Islam that you're against, but when you condemn Islam, that's their belief. And they don't like what you're saying, because no more than a Christian would have a go at you over if you were slagging the Bible.
No, but everyone's allowed to slag the Bible. Come on, everyone's allowed to mock Jesus.
Well, I do on a regular basis, yeah.
The newspaper, everyone's allowed to. No one beheads anyone. No one wants to blow anyone up. But you're not allowed to talk about Islam. You're not allowed to. Islam is given special protection from criticism. And what I'm saying is, most of the problems we see in our country, most of the problems we see across Europe, across the world, are because of Islamic scripture, because of the teachings.
But everybody there's nobody out there, well, very few people out there condoning the behaviour of militant Islam and militant Muslims and terrorists and people who do things in the name, in their interpretation of the Quran. Nobody is condoning that behaviour. I don't think anybody is.
It's one thing not condoning it, it's another thing stopping it. I want to stop it.
But you can't, Tommy, and I don't think anybody can, because clearly these individuals are not just Muslims, they're nutcases.
We can limit it. We've had 500 returning jihadis. 500. Bedfordshire Police, I was supposed to be in London, and then Bedfordshire Police called me, come down to see me. I was in the gym for an emergency meeting. They said, you cannot go on Friday. Where you're going. I said, why not? They said the map coordinates of where you're going to be have been intercepted from a jihadi from Birmingham who was out in Syria in a message he sent. And I said, I don't care. Yeah? That's not my problem. I don't care, because I'm not changing my life. And then the police officer said, there's 500 have returned. 500 ISIS fighters have returned. Well, I didn't let them return. And if I was in power, none of them would have returned. Not one of them would have returned. You've let them return. It took 4 times as many Muslims have joined ISIS than have ever joined the British Army. We have 22,000 Muslims on the terror watch list in the UK. That's a small army. And when you look at the demographical change of the UK, and I can see the problems arising in Ireland, and it will be like a click of the fingers. I was born in 1982. We had 1 mosque. Luton now has 35. This is the future, okay? Unless these problems are addressed, if you love your culture, if you love your country...
Okay, well, do you believe that Christians and Muslims, in general, can live side by side?
They haven't done so in 1,400 years without war.
So you don't believe that's possible?
I don't believe.
We've 90,000 Muslims in Ireland currently at the moment, and the figure is rising quite quickly. But
that'll double. That'll double in 10 years.
Okay,
and then it'll double again.
Okay, and probably will. But we've had no terrorist attacks. I don't see. Look, there are isolated incidents, yes, but there are isolated incidents with Irish people too. So it would be unfair of me to isolate single incidents and say that's down to Muslims, but it's down to certain people. It's just down to figures. What percentage of Ireland is Muslim? What's the population of Ireland? 4.7 million.
4.7 million. You've got 90,000. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, Britain's got 5%. When you're at 5%, France is at 10%. That's why they have more terrorism. It's just numbers. It's just numbers. So in small numbers, it's just a numbers game. And my point is, the safety of the people of your country, the safety of the people of my country is the number one. It should be our number one concern.
What do you say to people who say, well, it's easy to say that you're a patriot, but they call you a racist? What do you say to people who call you racist?
I despise racism. Absolutely despise it.
I mean, do you condemn, for example, I mean, I know that's completely off the topic in some sense, but of course the big story in the UK today is Danny Baker and the picture he put up of Meghan Markle. Yeah. Do you condemn that? Yeah.
That's disgusting. Mate, if anyone follows my history, since the day I started, the English Defence League was started by whites and blacks. my best friends who were with me the whole way through it have been black. In fact, every single demonstration that we had with the English Defence League, we had a non-white person on stage talking. But the media never report this. And this labelling that we're racist is just to try and stop the debate. Why do they want to stop the debate? Because they can't win the debate.
Well, they have stopped the debate because you were banned. Well, they've taken your advertising from YouTube. You're banned from Snapchat. You're banned from Twitter. Even your campaign now, because we know you're running as an MEP, has been banned from Twitter. You've been banned from Facebook. Even the mere mention of you will get somebody else suspended from Facebook. I mean, how does Tommy Robinson...
What do you think of that? I've never been arrested or tried or convicted, not even arrested, on any hate crime, on any religious crime, on any racial crime. I've never broke any law. But
they say you're violating their codes of conduct, is what they say.
It's lies, isn't it? It's lies, because they never tell you what code of conduct I'm violating. So,
I'm kind of with you on that because there's a few people on Twitter at the moment who have a go at me on a regular basis, and it's all lies and defamation and libelous and all sorts of carry on, and I can't get them banned from Twitter.
We have laws. We have laws in this country that prevent inciting hatred. Yeah, as I said, we have strict laws. If I broke any of those laws, I'd be arrested. I haven't broken them.
Well, maybe they're afraid. Well, when I say afraid to arrest you, I mean, look what happened the last time you ended up in jail. I mean, the streets, obviously a lot of people gathered on the streets demanding your freedom. I mean, what was it like when you went to jail?
It wasn't good. And do you know what it was? They've realised I had 1.2. I had the most engaged social media page in Britain, okay? I had an engagement that politicians could only dream of. And people listened. I had, in a 4-week period, 59 million people watched my videos just on Facebook. 172 million people read my tweets. We were reaching the public, and they are trying to take back power. And I think with this election campaign, if I had social media now, I'm not fighting an election campaign where all the other candidates are allowed social media. They're all allowed to reach and paid advertisement to reach the people in those towns and cities. It's an unfair playing field now. We're supposed to be a democracy. Okay?
And how, by the way, have you any idea how you're polling for the 23rd?
I'm going to win. I don't care how I'm polling. I'm going to win. I will be an MEP on the 23rd. Basically, which is what they're trying to prevent. And this country and people in this country, the elite, the establishment, have abused and betrayed the people of our communities. And this country is primed and ready for a political revolution. They are ready. But
are they really ready? Look what's happening with Brexit. We thought they were ready for a revolution, if that's what you're going to call it, because the referendum was somewhat of a revolution where people stood up and said, OK, we don't want the free movement of people anymore. Let's vote against this. Let's leave Europe. But look at the mess that Britain is in at the moment. So we're now waiting till October. It's been put forward, extended, put forward. Nobody can agree. It's a mess.
Yeah, it's a mess because they don't want to leave. The people at the top don't want to leave. The people have chose to leave, and I believe they will betray it. And if they betray it, it will be the end of democracy in this country. That's what they will be telling the public. Now, that's dangerous. It's a dangerous ground.
Well, I think that's what Theresa May was suggesting, that she wanted to uphold democracy, but unfortunately she came across so many objections. In some sense, although I didn't agree with everything she did, I kind of felt sorry for her because
she just needed to leave, instantly leave.
And it was like Groundhog Day for that poor woman, for God's sake, for the last 4 months.
She's a Remainer.
Absolutely, I know that, yeah. So they're probably going to end up with a Prime Minister next who is a Brexiteer. And will that help, or will there end up being a second referendum?
But then there shouldn't be a second referendum. There should not be a second. They just need to leave on no deal. There's no issue. And the difference is the people in this country, when we voted, they keep going on about the economy. And they told us house prices would reduce by 30%. They told us before the election. They told us there'd be no medicine on the shelves, food shortages. They lied and they told us all of this. And do you know what? We still chose to leave. We didn't vote on money based on our finance. We voted for our identity. We made
but Tommy, it wasn't exactly a landslide. I mean, it just about scraped through. You know what I mean?
It just scraped through. But more people didn't vote. More people didn't vote than voted for Brexit. Now that's the point. That's why I'm standing in this campaign, because 22 million people didn't vote at the last general election. I'm telling you, those people are.
The suggestion was that the people who voted no, well, a vast amount of the people who voted to leave in the referendum would have been people of an older generation, and the younger people, possibly around London, etc., who voted to stay, obviously were thinking of their future.
No, it's not, because there's just an education system. The recent education system, which is 90% of professors are left-wing or left-leaning, and this whole indoctrination of people in the politically correct society we have, and a generation of absolute snowflakes who are scared to debate anything or have criticism, which is where we're currently at.
Do you think young people, 18 to 27-year-olds, so to speak, the kind of college students now, are they all looking for a safe space?
The middle-class ones are.
Yeah, are they afraid? Are they afraid to debate?
With debate, I want more debate. The reason why I want more debate is because on the issue I talk about, it is 100% factual in its truth. Islam is not peaceful. It's not a religion of peace. It never has been. It never will be.
Well, they'll argue it is. Many Muslims. Now, by the way, most Muslims that I know are peaceful people.
But Muhammad wasn't peaceful.
I didn't meet Muhammad. I don't know him. But I can only tell you the Muslims I meet.
Okay, but Muhammad, say for example Jesus done this. Muhammad beheaded 600 people. This is not Tommy Robinson's opinion. This is their scripture.
But Tommy, you're looking at something that happened. Yeah, but you're looking at a long, long time ago. I mean, if you look back to the Bible, or if you look back to the history of the world, and look back 2,000 years ago when Jesus was supposed to be around, I mean, times were just... But hang on, times were just... But he may not have, but the Romans certainly did. Times weren't quite the same.
We don't have 4 million people in the UK who wish to emulate the Romans. We have 4 million Muslims in the UK who think Muhammad was perfect. And until we start saying, hold on, guys, he wasn't perfect. He was a barbarian, okay? He was a warlord, he was a rapist,
and that's your interpretation, but their interpretation is different. And not everybody's interpretation of the Quran is the same as yours.
That's not an interpretation.
But I can interpret the Bible. You look at the southern states of America, and you look at some of the Baptist churches around there, and how serious they take the Bible and how literal they take the Bible. Some of those people are crazy and dangerous because of their interpretation of the Bible.
Are they beheading anyone?
Not at the moment, but they did during the Crusades.
During the Crusades, man, come on. There were 9 Crusades. There's been about 200 jihadi battles. And Crusades are simply taking back the land that had been pillaged and taken from Christians from a Muslim invading army.
But see, Tommy, I'm all in favour of free speech. And you know, I'm kind of happy for you to talk about whatever you want to talk about on the air tonight. And, you know, and obviously one or two of those points I'll challenge you on, because that's probably my job. But the thing about it is, when people hear stories, say, about you know, going up to journalists' houses in the middle of the night and, you know, putting journalists' addresses on Facebook, if you're doing a Facebook Live, or doing some of that sort of stuff. I mean, is that fair? Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, let me explain that. So I was out of the country, and a lawyer, the lawyer that's acted, a Muslim lawyer who acts for every jihadi, he's trying to bring Shamina Begum back. He is the lawyer who represented Michael Adebolaja, who murdered Lee Rigby. So he works for all of the jihadi lawyers. That lawyer handed my children's address. He videoed it. He handed my children's address to a man, okay, with red hair. This is what happened. He handed their address. That man with red hair then come with a camera and live stream where my children are. He live streamed their addresses. He didn't just live stream, he made videos saying, Tommy, I'm coming to see your children. And he made it so clear. He spoke about lighting my house up. He spoke about my wife being raped. This is a man that was given my address, and he'd done it all on video. And then Mike Stutsbury, who acts as a journalist, he's not a journalist, he's an opinionated far-left activist who's part of Antifa, okay? He worked with him to send them to my home. Now, my wife and children were terrified. Now, simply, I was out of the country.
So why didn't you just go to the police?
Mate, if you've watched my campaign trail so far, I've been violently attacked 3 times in front of the police. They've arrested no one. They actually dropped one of the gentlemen off at the train station after he attacked me. I've had death threats every day for the last 10 years. Not one person.
But does that concern you, Tommy? When I mean, and I'll come back to the journalists in a second, and you stand outside their houses, but does it, because after the police went, you went back to the house again, but does it concern you that, you know, you do have 3 children, you have a lovely wife, you have lovely children, that your campaign and, you know, and what you stand for them, you know, it obviously puts them in danger too? Because, look, your life is in danger, you know that, but you're willing to take that on the chin because that's what you do, and you're happy to do that. But are you happy that their lives also are at risk too because of what you do? Is that something that sits well with you?
Of course I'm not, but I also look at history. I look at what our forefathers went through. I look at, actually, my mum's granddad's brother, Charles Darcy, was shot dead in the Easter Uprising. 1916, he was 15 years old, died. Yeah? It's in my DNA, bro. It's in my DNA. If something's wrong, I don't care if people threaten me and they want to kill me. I will fight. That's
grand, and I accept that, Tommy. And by the way, I applaud you for that. Whether I agree with you or whether I don't agree with you, I do applaud you for the fact that you're willing to stand up and say what you think. All right, but the point is, you know, it's not just you. It's your wife and kids as well.
You see what's going to happen. If you see what's going to happen, if we're not successful in preventing what's going to happen, this isn't about my wife and kids. This is about a generation of children growing up in Britain who are actually going to end up in a war zone. Don't stop it. So that's truthfully how I feel. So this is bigger than my 3 children, who I dearly love. It's bigger than me. And if we sit by, and we won't get like cowards because we're scared of what might happen. Children who are 14 were pretending they were 16 to run into battle and fight the Nazis with a life expectancy of 60 seconds when they run on those beaches. They weren't cowards. Right now we've bred a generation of cowards who care only about themselves. But if I only cared about myself, I'd have moved out of Luton, I'd got a nice house and stuck my head down and just kept quiet and then moaned and sat on TV like most people. But that's not who we were. That's not who we are. So I want to wake up this country and say, we look around and no one can say terrorism's going up 60% every year. No one can say that our country's getting better. Our freedoms are disappearing. Okay? Our country and our communities are coming under attack. And it's about...
Okay, but do you not believe at this stage that the horse has, if indeed the concern is true, that the horse has bolted? That there's nothing really you can do? You've got 1.8 million people have come across the Mediterranean possibly in the last 4 or 5 years. The majority of those will be able to claim citizenship very soon, be it in Germany or whatever country they happen to be in. When they do that, they will have free movement across Europe. If Britain doesn't leave the EU, well, they're heading for Britain and Ireland and everywhere else. So, I mean, is it not too late, Tommy? Are you fighting a lost cause?
Never too late. I've had this. It's never too late, and a lot of people would have felt that in the war against the Germans. Is it too late? It's never too late. Never too late to protect our country. I want a prosperous, safe and prosperous Britain for my children. Yeah.
But do you want a prosperous, safe Britain with just indigenous people?
No, I don't. No. I just don't want 22,000 Muslims on a terror watch list walking around our country who are half of them are on dual nationality and half of them can be deported.
Well, do me a favour, Tommy, and I know you're happy to stay with us just for a few minutes, okay? I was speaking to Tommy Robinson, and most of you know who Tommy is at this stage, and he is running, by the way, for election on the 23rd. What I want to do is just take 1 or 2 calls if I can, because David, you're on Classic Hits. How you doing, David?
Good evening, Niall. Haven't spoken to you in a while.
How you doing?
How are you doing?
Nice to talk to you, David. It's been a while, yes. What do you want to say?
Oh, well, I just want to, again, there was a lot of stuff that you had already said. Like, Tommy Robinson, who was the guy, the guy I looked up to as someone who had it all. I mean, he had a fairly comfortable life, and that he didn't like what he was seeing and decided to do something about that. And I think that the big problem is, though, that he's sort of I don't want to use the term problem, but it's the only word I can think of at the moment. It's a secondary problem. That the primary problem that they're not addressing is the grooming gangs and the 52% of British Muslims who want being gay to be made illegal. And when Tommy speaks out about that, then they go after him as opposed to everyone else. So they're going after Tommy instead of going after the problem, is what you're saying? Yeah.
All right, so they're not dealing with the problem.
Exactly.
Okay, Tommy, are you there?
Yeah, 66% of British Muslims said they would not report on a fellow Muslim who was joining ISIS. 66%. We're no longer talking about a minority. We're talking about 2 billion people living in our country. We're talking about danger. We're talking about real problems. And that's what they should be focused on. The hatred and the vile and the venom that's coming out of some members of that community. And I'm sorry, it's simply a numbers game. The problem's got in Britain, they're coming to Ireland. So get yourself ready.
I mean, if a text here and somebody says, Niall, look, it's simple black and white, to be honest with you. Tommy has been banned from social media. He's banned from mainstream media. You won't really see Tommy on the BBC or ITV. He's on Classic Hits tonight, but then again, Niall, you are quite right-wing anyway. It's quite obvious the reason he's been banned from all these places is because he's not saying the right thing.
Yeah, and I even think you were wrong, Niall, in saying that they're afraid to do anything about him, because they threw him into jail on some very trumped-up charges, like putting him in a maximum security prison for filling out a mortgage form wrong. When generally with those things, Tommy, you go to an open prison, don't you, in those instances?
Yeah, I mean, I know obviously the last time. Tommy, you have another court case on the way as well, haven't you?
It's for the same thing that they put me in prison for the same contempt of court, which is I didn't break the law, but publicly held.
But the suggestion was there was sub judice on the case at the time.
No, but that doesn't matter because the law says there's no powers to put restrictions on information that's already in the public.
But reporting. When you say reporting restrictions, for example, if we have a case ongoing in the courts here, we can talk about the facts of the case, but we can't have an opinion on it until the case is over.
But I didn't. I said these men are innocent until proven guilty. That's what I said. I made clear of that. I just said the crimes have been alleged, and I said alleged to have committed. What this is about is silencing and stopping the public being aware of what's going on with the rape of girls in our country. These reporting restrictions are on every single Muslim grooming trial. So instead of getting the detailed news of what they've done to the victims, we get one day's news at the end of a 6-week trial. That's basically what's happening.
Yeah, well, hold on a second, because Sean, you're on Classic Kids. How you doing, Sean?
Hey, how's it going on?
Yeah, you can speak to Tommy Robinson there if you want to. You don't agree with him?
Well, to tell you the truth, I don't know too much about him other than what I've been feverishly reading in the past hour or so online. Just from what I'm skimming here, though, I have to wonder, though, do you think that maybe perhaps the pursuit of your political platform might be somewhat impeded by your criminal activities, or whether you're, you feel they're warranted or not? I mean, don't you think perhaps, I'm not even going to get into your beliefs, but I'm just saying, even if what you believe in, don't you think you could be a better spokesperson if you avoided things like, for example, going to that journalist's house or posting posting the video about that refugee kid who and the thing about the rape hotline a couple months ago, getting don't you think
there's a little handbag bunch, right?
Well, I think the point of Sean is saying is that maybe you wouldn't be seen in such a bad light if you didn't do those things.
That's it, put it.
Yeah. Tommy, you still there?
I'm still there, mate.
Yeah.
So when he says, there could be someone that would have been better to have this voice, but unfortunately, most people, when they get threatened with death or they get violently attacked, there's 6 people who are in jail they're on their way to kill me with guns and bombs. Yeah, most people were revolted. Now, it's my background.
I get that, but I look at other political leaders like Gandhi or Dr. King. They got death threats as well. They didn't resort to doing what you've been accused of doing.
Wouldn't they? What have I been accused of doing? Tell me one thing. When you're talking about that journalist, as I've just told you, he sent people. I had Osman. I had a British government tell my wife, just in a number of months, that people are planning to throw acid in her face. And then a journalist comes to my house and live streams where my children live. And they know what they're doing.
I heard you say that. Yeah, I heard that. I understand that.
All I done was went to his house and opened his door on my own. When they come to my house, there were 6 of them. I went on my own. But none of the media or none of the politicians talk about what they've just done to my children. They've endangered their lives. I've had to up my children and move them to a different place again.
But the politicians and the media in the UK will say that there's other people haven't endangered your children's lives or your wife's life. It's you. That's what they'll say.
No, but again, I don't agree with your
and I don't agree with it either. I don't agree with anybody threatening your life or threatening their lives. I don't agree with it.
So who's planning to kill Muslim kids in our country or Muslim women do you think about to be relocated? Planning? How many? None. That's all. We're not. So the reality is, my wife, when she was 6 months pregnant, they told us the first they stood on time. They said people are planning to kill you and targeting you. And I asked the police officer then, how many Muslim women are being told this? None. And there'd be uproar if there were. We'd be hearing about the hate crime and the hate. The biggest hate ever hear about is words on Twitter. I don't have words, man. I'm violent.
Do you think if you were just speaking against grooming gangs and against terrorism and jihadi watch lists, do you think you still would have been banned from Facebook and these other platforms?
Of course.
Regardless of your other activities, really?
I was banned from Facebook the day after I released my documentary Panorama. My documentary...
I watched the documentary.
Proved categorically that the BBC, that's supposed to be independent, were working alongside far left hate groups to frame me for sexual abuse. Basically, it proved it. It proved, and they were laughing about on undercover footage. It proved it. I embarrassed them and showed the whole country that they are fake news. And that they work for the government.
I mean, in fairness, Sean, I don't know whether you've watched the documentary that Tommy put out, Panorama. It does clearly show that the producer of Panorama was clearly trying to set him up.
Yeah, the Facebook is an international platform. I could find many people, dozens of media figures online espousing views, probably even more extreme than Tommy's, that are still on Facebook.
But Facebook, I believe, is quite selective about who they remove. I mean, I mentioned there 2 years ago when the Black Lives Matter group attacked 6 and killed 6 police officers in the United States. I put up, how desperate and how awful that was and disgusting. Well, a disgusting act of terrorism, essentially, is what I was saying. And I put hashtag All Lives Matter. I was banned from Facebook for a week, just for putting up hashtag All Lives Matter.
But you're still posting there every day now.
Sorry?
You still have a Facebook page. You still have a talk show.
I do, but I'm quite conscious when I'm posting, because obviously we have a very popular page and a very popular Twitter account. I'm quite conscious when I'm posting stuff that I don't want to lose the account. I have to be.
Right. Well, again, what I'm trying to get at, I really don't believe it's just the views. I think it's the association with hooliganism and criminal elements.
But if I'm listening to Tommy tonight, I've heard nothing that incites hatred. He clearly said, before he was, and wasn't prompted to say it, that some of the best people in his town in Luton were Muslims. So that doesn't sound to me like somebody who's an Islamophobe.
People don't want the government don't want the public to realise the truth of what's happening and what's going to happen and the problems that's going to be caused. If people in this country realised what's going to happen in the future, we'd have a revolution tomorrow.
So if you were, let's just say you were made absolute monarch of the UK tomorrow, what would you do day one?
For day one, I'd stop Saudi Arabia. I'd stop Saudi Arabia and Iran and Qatar, any of their money coming into our country. I'd stop them funding schools and mosques tomorrow. I'd stop. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd stop the building of mosques. I'd stop Islamic immigration.
Really? Any mosques?
You would stop. Well, hang on. You'd stop Islamic immigration by your own words, Tommy. Most Muslims are good people. So why, if there's people who are coming for genuine reasons, genuine refugees, genuine asylum seekers, I'm not talking about people who are economic migrants, why would you stop them?
No, not as an MEP. It's not talking about being an MEP. No, I'm talking about... we had 5 refugees who have committed terrorism and murder. No one knew which ones were good and which ones were bad. As I've just said, until we get hold of the world situation of jihad, I'd temporarily halt everything. As I said, most of our mosques are funded by Saudi Arabia, most of them. Every time we see an undercover footage on a mosque, we see hatred and anti-democratic views, anti-Semitic views being promoted. They need to be regulated.
So the building of a mosque in itself is a problem then?
The building of a mosque in itself, what?
Is a problem. You believe is a problem in itself?
I believe that currently, until they can get grip of the situation, yeah. 90% of imams in this country don't speak English. 90% of the imams in our country don't speak English. You have a tribalistic imam from Afghanistan. He could be in the mountains of Afghanistan yesterday, and then he's talking in a mosque in Luton tomorrow. And that's where we're getting the problems.
Okay, well, stay there a second, because Lisa, you're a classic guest. Lisa, you're a fan of Tommy Robinson.
I am an absolute fan. Is Tommy Robinson still online?
He is, yes.
Hi, Tommy. I just want to say that you've got huge support from a network in Ireland, that I'm administrator of TR News on Telegram, and we are just so proud of you for your freedom of speech, for the work that you and Dan O'Tomo are doing. And when are you coming to Dublin?
When I'm coming to Dublin? Once I'm an MEP, I'll be coming over.
Well, I hope to God you get voted in, and I hope you keep up the work. Myself and my family are fanatical fans of you, and as I said, TR News with Chris Mitchell is doing amazing work for you, supporting you, and I really, really hope that we get the chance to see you in Dublin, or if not, I'll be coming over to where you are next.
Lisa, Lisa, just while you're on the line, what do you think of the condemnation of Tommy, his banning from social media, spokespeople who say that he's an Islamophobe and a racist? How does that make you feel? Do you think there's any essence of truth in any of that at all?
There is no essence of truth. Tommy is an amazing, hard-working family man. He is fanatical in what he believes in. There's not a racist bone in his body. And I think if more people had the courage that he has at the moment for freedom of speech, the world would be a better place.
All right, well, listen, Tommy, before we let you go, because I know you're very distracted there, because there seems to be a lot of people around you, and I know you're obviously busy. You're walking down the street as far as now. Are you walking down the street or something?
I'm sat opposite an Arab friend and a Pakistani friend, actually, in the back of my car.
All right, okay. But
I've been out campaigning all day, so I'm just going into a restaurant now because I haven't eaten yet.
All right, okay. But Tommy, so you are coming to Dublin at some point. Have you had any problems, by the way, in relation to venues where you wanted to speak? Have any venues stopped you from speaking?
Oh, every time we get a venue, then pressure and fascist tactics are used, threats are used to intimidate the owners, to make them cancel, which is why I have arriving after my election campaign on 23rd of May. I have a double-decker bus where one whole side of it is a TV screen, so I can go on my own tour. And I will be touring different towns and cities, telling them, do you know what I'm going to do? I was already looking at Ireland. I'm going to make a mini documentary about Ireland and the problems in Ireland.
By the way, just on that note, because you said you obviously support the Brexit, you believe there's going to be a no-deal Brexit, which is a possibility. If we have a no-deal Brexit, Europe will probably impose a hard border in Northern Ireland, which will encourage a referendum on a united Ireland. How do you feel about a united Ireland?
I don't believe they will. I don't believe they will impose a hard border.
Well, they won't have. We won't have a choice. Europe will impose it.
I don't believe they will. So,
I'm not as confident as you, Tommy. If there's no deal, I'm not as confident as you that there won't be.
Well, yeah.
I mean, because if we go by what you want to Brexit for, which is to stop the free movement of people, sure, what's the point if you've got a leaking bucket essentially up there in Newry?
Mate, I'm sorry. I'm walking into a restaurant now. I've got 6 people standing with me.
All right, well, look, Tommy, I'll let you go, all right, because I know you're quite busy, all right? I appreciate you coming on the air and taking a bit of time. I know you're in a busy campaign at the moment. Tommy, thanks very much indeed. There you go. Unfortunately, I would have liked to get him a better opportunity, but unfortunately, he's campaigning on the campaign trail at the moment, and he's got a lot of people around him. And as you heard, everywhere he was walking there, people were saying hello to him, so it was quite distracting for him, I think. But we will try and get him again, maybe under better circumstances. Loads and loads of people texting in. Some people, Niall, I thank you very much for having him on the air and giving him his opportunity to speak. Very rarely the media do. I don't believe he said anything wrong tonight. Well, no, I don't believe he said. I mean, you could disagree with a lot of what he said, but I don't believe he said anything racist or anything. He didn't incite any hatred. I think your brace for having Tommy on it's a subject that opens a major can of worms, and it's easy to have a go at him for his views, but once the views are out there, you realise it's the Muslim community that have the explaining to do and not him. They make no effort to denounce their own kind. Free speech is under attack. Well, I would agree with you in some sense. Yes, I believe the Muslim community should be very quick to condemn other Muslims who do wrong. Absolutely. Unfortunately, a lot of the time they don't. But I believe, I want to just reiterate again, the majority of Muslims are not terrorists. They're peaceful people. Now, does this man realise how much weaponry the UK sells to despotic regimes all over the world? Countries like Saudi Arabia, etc. That comes in from June in Kildare. And another person says, "Niall, well done for having Tommy Robinson on the air." Another person says, "Niall, great interview. Tommy is a legend." Now, it's the first interview I've ever heard Tommy Robinson actually be given an opportunity to speak. It's an awful shame we couldn't get him earlier on the show. Yeah, it is an awful shame. Fault your road, Tommy. The real Ireland loves you. That comes in from Sean in Galway. And somebody else says, "Niall, why are you giving airtime to a hate monger?" Right, okay. I didn't hear any hate. I heard a man with a view that I might not agree with, but there you go. All right, now I want to move on.